What's up? Welcome to The Walking Dead Season 8 recap. Yes, we are finally on Season 8 of The Walking Dead, and it feels kind of good to be on the. Could have been, the final season of The Walking Dead, but isn't. Yes, this should have been the final season of The Walking Dead, but isn't the final season of The Walking Dead because, yeah, I'll get to that later, but yeah, this should have been the final season of The Walking Dead, but isn't the final season of The Walking Dead because, the writers just want to keep us going, want to keep us guessing for 11 seasons. What is wrong with the writers? Dexter was able to keep its show going for 8 seasons and then made one revival. Why couldn't The Walking Dead keep its show going for 8 seasons? I know The Walking Dead has like more shows than Dexter had. Like, it has 3 spin-offs, one forgettable, the other one's okay. The forgettable one I'm talking about is Worlds Beyond. That's forgettable. And never seen it, but I know no one likes it. But yeah, let's get into The Walking Dead Season 8. So what I forgot to mention in the last season review is that Rick and Negan are going to war. I forgot to mention that. Rick and Negan are going to war. War! Yeah, so this episode starts off, this season. Season. Wait. Okay. Anyway, sorry for that interruption. Sorry for that interruption. But yeah, Rick is giving a speech about how he and Negan are going, about how he wants to take down the Savior, because if they don't, bad stuff will happen. So they ambush the Savior base, but with Eugene still being #Team Negan. But they have Gregory. Gregory is the worst character ever. I still dislike him. He is one of my least favorite characters. And you like Eugene because even though Eugene is a coward, you still think that there's good in him. But with Gregory, he's a coward, but he continues to rat out our main character each time. And this is no exception, as he's like, oh, yeah. Rick, and he's like, oh yeah, guys, the Savior is now, Hilltop now belongs to Hilltop is now going to be run by the Savior. And whoever doesn't follow their lead will get kicked out. But then Jesus is like, no, the Hilltop runs with Maggie, and Simon, Smiley Psychopath 2, is like, dude, if you can't even keep your own Hilltop in line, now they're switching sides to another person, get out of here, and pushes him down the stairs, which could have killed him, but doesn't. So, yeah, there's also the whole trash people thing, and how they're getting caught with Gabriel, and so Gabriel gets caught with Negan, and Negan gets gone for a couple of days, so they obviously think Negan is dead. But and Simon takes over, but Negan's like, yeah, and he's like, I'm in charge now, and Negan's like, are you sure about that? And they're like, Negan, you're alive, thank G-O-D, and he's like, yeah, take Gabriel somewhere. So meanwhile, Gregory goes back to Hilltop, and they're like, really, dude, you tried to sell us out to the Saviors, and he's like, that was all the Saviors' idea. The Saviors put him up to it. But we learn later that he came up with that all by himself. So they're like, throw him into the cage with the other Saviors they don't want to kill. So all the Saviors, yeah. So the Saviors are now, some of the Saviors are now captured. And meanwhile, back with Rick. So Carl and Rick are on a. Carl is walking when he's captured, when he runs into a guy who wants his food. But Rick, not trusting the guy, tries to shoot at him and has him run away. But Carl's like, Rick, that was a wrong idea to do. So Coral later runs into the guy, and it's like, wait a minute, we're in trouble. Like, and he's like, hey, he talked about how he used to be a doctor and how his mom got killed in the zombie apocalypse, and how she used to think that the walkers are just people trapped. People's souls are trapped, and it's just like, welcome to another person, welcome to another dead person who thinks that the walkers are people. Lizzie learned that the hard way, and she became a psychopath. I'm glad we never meet this guy's mom, because she sounds crazy. But Carl decided, he's like, hey, you can come back to my community. And hang out with the rest of us. So meanwhile, back at the kingdom, the kingdom, King Ezekiel is there with the funniest character of all of the show, Jerry. Jerry is the best Daryl is the best character, but Jerry is the funniest character. He just is always funny, and how they always say Jerry is just so good. We also got Dwight, who's pretending to be on Negan's side when he's really working with the gang. But Tara and Daryl want to kill Dwight that Dwight tried to kill Daryl, and Tara wants to kill him for killing Denise, and just like, okay. So meanwhile, so King Ezekiel and Jerry and Carol are on a mission when a bunch of walkers swarm them, and King Ezekiel thinks he's about to die. But that's when Shiva the Tiger comes in and sadly gets taken out by walkers. The CGI tiger gets taken out by a bunch of walkers, causing King Ezekiel to get all depressed and sad that his beloved zoo animal that he saved from the zoo is now gone. R.I.P. Shiva, the tiger, the CGI tiger. I'm just gonna say CGI because I don't think the show would actually bring in an actual tiger to get fake killed off. That would be crazy. So yeah. That would be a crazy situation. So meanwhile, Dwight decides. Not Dwight. Daryl and Tara and Michonne and Rosita. Forgot to mention Michonne and Rosita are in the scene. Rosita decides that she wants to follow with Rick's plans of just waiting, but Tara and Daryl are like, yeah, nah, we're just gonna, and they decide to crash into decide to make some. Yeah, there was also the scene where Tara and Michonne were captured. When Rosita and Michonne were captured by some bad guys. And what does Rizia do? She takes a grenade launcher and she takes a rocket launcher and and he's like, you don't got the guts to use that thing, and she blows him up. Bye bye, dude. And then the other savior lady is taken out by Michonne, and that's why they end up with Daryl and Tara. So they take all the walkers and crash them into the sanctuary. To the sanctuary. So and crash them into the sanctuary. And Eugene's able to get everyone out of there, and Dwight leaves, but he's being driven by Laura, the blonde girl, until Dwight saves Tara, and Tara kills all those Savior members, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she runs away, knowing that what Dwight did. And Dwight saves them. So now Dwight's on their team, even though they don't trust him. Yeah. So meanwhile, the rest of the remaining saviors decide to attack Carl, Rick, and the others. And Carl wants Negan to kill him. And he's like, "Hey, Carl, I like you. You got some guts." But then Carl causes a fireworks show, and he's like, "That's what you had all the time. Carl, I liked you, but now I'm gonna really kill you." And Carl gets underneath the sewer, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Carl's." So everyone's there, and Carl reveals that he was bitten by a walker. Yes, Carl was bit by a walker when he and that guy, who we learned his name is Sadiq, were overrun by walkers. So Carl's about to die. He says goodbye to everyone. Daryl takes Judith as she's. Carl passes on his hat to Judith, basically being like, "Hey, this was once my dad's hat, that's mine. Now I'll pass it on to you." So yeah, basically a family generational passing on of the sheriff hat that Rick gave Carl back in season 2. Now that he knows he's dying, he's passing it on to Judith, which is kind of sad because the exact same time that he's like saying, "Here, my dad wore this, and now he's passing it on to me. He passed it on to me. Now I'm passing it on to you, Judith." And Judith randomly cries as Carl walks away, and so yeah. So we learned that Carl knew he was dying, so he decided to write. Carl knew that he was dying, so he decided to write He decided to write letters to everyone, including Negan. Yes, Carl wrote to Negan. So they decided to take Carl out of the bunker and Carl out of the sewer, and Carl and Rick and Michonne and Rick are like, "What should we do? We can't let Carl turn." So they're like, "Hey, someone he has to love has to kill him." But since Rick and Michonne don't want to do it, Carl decides to shoot himself in the head off screen because they're just sitting outside as he does it, just like they were doing when Andrea died. Someone was sitting outside when someone died. And now Carl is dead. R.I.P. Carl. We will miss you. So meanwhile, Daryl they decide to let Sadiq join the group, and it's also revealed that there was flash forwards to this entire season of like a 6-year-old Judith and Carl and Michonne and Rick all living with everyone like working together, being friends and being harmony, and everyone working together. And it's later revealed that Carl is having this dream because he's hoping that one day everything will stop happening. Like, there will be no fighting, there will be no battles, everything will return to normal. And even Negan is revealed to be working there as Judith approaches him. 6-year-old Judith approaches him. So Rick decides to call Negan and is like, "Yo, dude, Carl's dead." But Negan, deciding not to take responsibility for his actions, decides to blame Rick, of course, and saying it's Rick's fault Carl's dead, instead of blaming himself. Because we all know this is Negan's fault. If Negan, and yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird. So yeah, so yeah, so it's, so yeah, so that's tell everyone about it, and girl, and they go to the hilltop. They tell Carol. Girl Carl is sad that the guy that she was named after is dead, and her boyfriend. So this kind of becomes the Carl show now because it's kind of all about Carl and what he was wanted. It's kind of weird. This kind of became the Carl show because it's now all about what Carl would have wanted and trying to live up to Carl's legacy, and it's all it's all weird. So on a mission, Daryl, and Tara and Dwight try to scope out some some sewer walkers. But Tara's like, hey, maybe this guy's leading us to a trap. If the Savers couldn't go through this, why can't we? Why are we doing it? So Daryl says, hey, hang out with him. But what does Tara do? She tries to murder him because she tries to, instead of doing what Daryl said and sticking to the plan, Tara decides to try to kill Dwight. But then some savers come by and Dwight decides to, sacrificing himself to society, instead of giving up his and Tara's location, he decides to give up his location and tell the Savers it was just him and he's alone. So he goes back to the Savers, and Daryl is praying mad that Tara didn't stick to the plan of didn't stick to the plan, and it's like, hey, Dwight can go back to the Savers for all he cares. So yeah. Oh yeah. So meanwhile, back with the sanctuary. The sanctuary has Gabriel captured, but he and Dr. Carson escape. But then they're captured. But then Gabriel gets infected and goes blind. So then what happens is that he and Dr. Carson not killed. They get captured by the Saviors. Carson tries to grab one of the Saviors' gun, but the Saviors kill him, and he's all sad because God had a plan for him, and God didn't stop. God was supposed to have a plan for Carson, but God didn't do anything to stop Carson's death. So yeah, so they drive back to the sanctuary. Meanwhile, Rick confronts Negan, and they have a battle. Battle. They have a battle. But then, and Rick's about to use Negan's. I put Rick and Negan's names together to make Nick. He's about to use Negan's own battle steel to kill him, but then the next time we see Negan, he's kidnapped by Jada, because on Jada's side we have her savior friend. Simon was supposed to only kill one of them, but then he was only supposed to kill one of them, but then he killed all of them, causing her to be on her own. So Rick, instead of being the nice guy he is, decides to abandon her because he's like, she betrayed us and tried to kill us. Why not leave her dead? So he does that, but then Simon was like, oh yeah, Negan, everything went out fine. But then Rick tell Negan what Simon did, and then now Negan knows what Simon did about killing all the scavengers. I want to say sanctuary scavengers, and now she's capturing Negan for her friends because she turned them into crab patties after they turned into zombies. So she tries to kill Negan, but then a helicopter she had flies by her, and she can't. So then Negan gives us his backstory about how he had a wife, but she got sick in the zombie apocalypse, and he was always he took her for granted, but she was always there for him. So, but then when she died, he found the bat and named it Lucille after his dead wife, because Lucille was always there for him, and the bat's always there for him. Yeah. Origin of Negan's wife's name. The origin of Negan's bat. So she decides to not leave them all alive because of their sad backstory. And Negan goes back to the sanctuary. Negan tries to be all like, ha ha ha, all's forgiven, Simon, but then Simon's like, hey, Dwight, let's form a plan to overthrow and kill Negan. But then what does Dwight do? Tell Negan. And Negan's like, and then Simon's like, what'd you do, Dwight? Why'd you tell Negan? And he's like, Negan's the higher power. And he's like, that's Simon I know, always going after people. And he's like, I know you killed the scavenger, Simon. So now let's have a bow to the death. So he's like, hey guys, false alarm. I just want to prove that I'm better than Negan, and goes for the first strike and fights Negan, but Negan puts him on the ground and chokes Simon to death and has him chained up as one of his walkers to be there forever or die off screen. So yeah, that's the end of Simon's character. Yeah, he did try to attack the sanctuary before, and he tried to attack Hilltop before, but that wasn't part of Negan's plan. So Negan decides to come up with a new plan come up with a plan that he reveals is fake. Gregory tells Gregory to go back to Hilltop to warn Rick. So they do and get the plans of what Negan's plan is. But then Negan reveals that plan was actually fake, and he knew Dwight was sent to him because the girl that ran away, he met on the side of the road, and she told him he met Laura on the side of the road, and she told Negan everything about Dwight betraying them, and now no one trusts Dwight anymore. So they're driving, but Gabriel escapes, trying to go tell Rick and the others about the plan. But then Eugene is like, dude, stay right here. You're not going anywhere. So he's like, you're not going anywhere. And then he's like, get back in the car. So he's like, okay. So he goes back in the car. They hold him at gunpoint. He's like, hey Rick, you fell for my plan. You should have been more smarter. So he holds Gabriel at gunpoint, but then they fire the guns, hoping to fire at Rick, but it kills all the saviors because Eugene was the bullet maker. He knew what to do. He decided to reverse the bullets on the guns and cause the guns to fire at the saviors instead of Rick. So Eugene's a redemptive hero. He wasn't really evil after all. So he runs away as he always does, and then Rick corners Negan and Negan, being the evil guy that he is, he's like, hey, you're the reason Carl's dead. And he's like, no, Rick, you are, because if I would have killed you back in the season 7 premiere, if I would have killed you back in the season 7 premiere, Carl would still be alive. But excuse me, Negan, wouldn't have everything that happened in the entire season wouldn't it have still happened if Rick died or not? Carl would still met Sadiq. Sadiq would still been the doctor. Carl would still got bitten by a walker. It wouldn't have been. Anyway, Negan's just not blaming himself. So Rick remembers Carl and him, and he slits Negan's throat. But he tells Sadiq to go patch him up. But Maggie's there, pleading to Rick not to let Negan die. But Rick, because he killed Glenn. But Rick's like, we can't be killers. Carl wanted a perfect world where we all be happy. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we have a perfect world where we're happy together. So, yeah, but Maggie's still crying over the fact that Rick won't kill Negan. So what happens is so they take Negan back to Alexandria. Yeah. Morgan, who's been a little crazy this entire season, finally got his revenge on Jared, the guy that killed Benjamin by killing Jared. The Henry kid let Benjamin go, let Jared go, but he went missing too but Morgan kept telling Carol that he's dead, but Carol didn't want to believe that until she saw that he was able to survive a whole bunch of walkers on top of him. And this made Carol realize that, hey, she was wrong about the fact that if someone goes missing, they're obviously dead, just like what happened with Sophia, and he proved her wrong. So they tell him the fact is that they killed, and Morgan told them that he killed his real brother, the killer of his real brother, not the other guy that the kid killed, and yeah. So Negan's and Rick's like, hey, this is gonna be the last place you ever see. So Maggie has a shadowy conversation with Daryl and Jesus about the fact that Rick made the wrong choice in killing and non-killing Negan, and they want to, and how Rick was right to save all the saviors but Negan, and now she's gonna make a plan to prove Rick and Michonne wrong. Yeah. I don't know. That proves Maggie's the antagonist, or she just wants to prove herself right. So anyway, then we see Rick making one last letter to Carl, and that's where the season ends. That's where the season ends. But yeah, and we also got one last thing that but we also have Morgan going to Jadis, and Jadis is like, her name isn't really Jadis, her name is Anne, and he's like, his name is Morgan, and he's like, hey, I can bring you back to Rick's group in Alexandria. So is Anne gonna join Rick's group? Who knows? Gabriel goes to talk. Gabriel, even though he's blind, he goes to talk to Rick's. He goes to talk, and yeah, and Daryl leads Dwight outside out in the woods, and is like, hey, leaves him alive. It's like, hey, I never want to see you again. If I see you once, I will kill you. But go find your wife. Go find your wife, Sherry. So he goes to the place where he went last season to find her, and discovers that she was there with a honeymoon forever on a pot of beer and pretzel. So proving that she is not dead. But do you know who? And also Oceanside. They also helped in this fight because in that girl Carl and Aaron went to go find them, but then the grandma Natania was about to kill Aaron, but then girl Carl Ian killed her, so they were totally gonna leave. So they captured them and were gonna leave them for dead because we're gonna leave. But then he's like, hey, go back to Alexandria. I'll figure out girl Carl. Go back to Alexandria. I'll deal with this. So he decides to. So they decide to they be BITCHs and leave him out there for dead. And he knew this would happen. So when they think he's dead, they feel bad for him. And he's like, hey, you want to join up with Rick and you want to help us fight the Saviors? And they're like, yes. Even though we're gonna leave you for dead earlier, we'll just help you. And they just have fire sticks. So yes. This should have been the final season of The Walking Dead, but it's not because money. Well, the slogan of The Walking Dead should be, we've got to have money. But anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you next time for some more when we check out season 9 of The Walking Dead. And remember, The Walking Dead is always about money, because if it wasn't about money, they would have canceled the show after this season, but the writers got greedy and wanted money. So remember, The Walking Dead, it's all about money. See you next time. But remember, The Walking Dead, it's all about money.